I became really, really self-aware to say, and this was beautiful actually, because the 6 months that followed, I think I was born again, and every single day I was feeling energized, good. I'm like, I have to tell the entire universe.
You know, your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health are all intertwined. And you know you should make healthy lifestyle choices. But are you really doing it? Too often we ascribe deprivation or pain with making these choices, when in fact it should be just the opposite. It should be something that makes you feel better and makes you feel happier and healthier, helps you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I know for me, being outdoors and especially in the mountains, beachside, these amazing places brings me closer to God. So it should be something that rewards you and brings more pleasure and joy in your life. And that's where you'll meet Celine. Join us as Celine shares her story about how she used her intellectual curiosity to overcome personal health challenges and really steer her life in a whole different direction, and how her voracious love of data and science fed her soul and helped her see the power of lifestyle medicine, and how now she's using this to help others. And you'll find her story about, who else can weave in a story about a great place in Tel Aviv, or a trampoline in her office, or love of the water in her home state of Washington, and how far it is from the coast she grew up in Africa. But who else can weave all these together to explain to you why it's such a passion for her, and why her health now matters, and why she thinks your health should matter, and how the fun steps and the fun ways and the pleasure and the joy she will help you find as you take those steps and really lay out your new healthy and happy future. So I'm really excited to have with me today Celine Brozovich. Hello, Celine.
Bonjour, Wendy. How are you doing? I am thrilled to be here with you.
I'm so excited to have you with us too. And you're here from Washington State. Awesome. You said it's beautiful up there, and you're getting ready this afternoon to go for a walk and enjoy the water.
Oh, yes. The Pacific Northwest is at its best during the summer. So yes, I cannot wait to go, because the water is calling me. The Puget Sound is waving at me.
The water is calling you. Oh, very good. Okay, so then we're going to hop right in, because you're going to talk about how you went from a successful career, really successful, high-level executive, electrical engineer, and took a completely different pivot because you experienced personal burnout, and now life on the other side is so much better. So first, I want to ask you, before we hop into that, to explain this outrageously delightful accent and where you grew up, so that everyone understands this sweet sound that is coming through from your microphone.
Bonjour. Aha, this is French. I was born in a country called Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast in English. It's a small little tiny country on the west coast of Africa. So French is my first language.
Wonderful. And then you got to the U.S. because of school and education, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you just loved it here. So here you are. Very good. Okay. So then you took the route of electrical engineering, which is very different from what you're doing today. So talk a little bit about what you loved and how you got to that point, and then take us through what happened kind of next.
So interesting. I was diagnosed with depression when I was age 14. And I realized that for me to shut down the voices and the pain was to be intellectually engaged. So I will read medical brochure. I will do difficult things. So I went ahead and I did the high school specializing in math and physical science. Very, very difficult. And then, of course, they sent you and I became an engineer. And working, usually, I love to work on new things, but very complicated because it keeps my mind going. And also, I get a lot of satisfaction for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you love tinkering and figuring out things. And this is what eventually helped your mind get past depression. I mean, 14 is an early age for depression.
It is not the tinkering, actually. It is the reflection, the brain activity that you have to solve problem. And I used to call myself a chaos organizer. So my specialty, actually, when I was doing my degree, was process automation. To look at something, it's like, how do I basically control that? So you have to look into it, understand it, and then design a process with all the mathematical equation, everything, to ensure that you can automate things. And then when it becomes automatic, it becomes easy for everybody to do. This was where I got my satisfaction, organizing chaos.
Organizing chaos. Okay, so then fast forward a bit. So you're enjoying your tenure now. You're in your stride, right? And you built your career in your 20s and your 30s, and you're trucking along. So then, what started to change for you, or what made you question things? Like, how did you get from there to where you are today? And we're going to explain to everybody where you are today in a moment. But take us a little bit through that journey, so we better understand how the electrical engineer approached this problem.
Thank you. This is a very good question. Actually, where is Tina Mitchell? We're doing some connecting the dots here. So at age 12, I start going on the diet. Don't even get me going there. So you I have been on that diet. So therefore, I have been very aware of my weight because of something that happened in my teenage years. I was working. I became a workaholic. The more work I could pile on myself, the better it is. And my last job, I loved that job. I was working for one of the biggest healthcare IT company. So I was in healthcare IT in charge of the data analytics practice. So I built the data analytics practice from the analysis to the visualization, and especially to the executive decision support. I loved it, loved it, loved it. I was getting results. And the more praise you get, the more you work. And this is actually very insane. So anybody out there listening to me, when they praise you, it doesn't mean you shouldn't stop working. And I was working. I was not sleeping. I was not taking care of myself. And imagine a balloon that you are on the water and you're trying to keep it on top of the water. So you put a lot of force, a lot of energy to try to keep it underwater. This is depression. You want to come out. So at some point, you are going to collapse. And this is exactly what happened. I collapsed. I burned out emotionally, physically, mentally. All those diseases that I was not taking care of, they all meet me. Bingo. So I spent my time between my bedroom and the living room and the kitchen. I couldn't function.
And was this because you were seeking answers externally at that point to try and figure out why your health was poor and why you were going through this problem or this burnout?
The burnout was because I was working like a nut. I was working 80, 90 hours a week. I was eating poorly. I was not sleeping. I was not taking care of myself.
You didn't have a fun social life.
Yeah, I didn't have a social life. No. Everything was my work. Put it that way. Okay. I had no background in healthcare. Okay? I started that job. Within a year, I got one of the most sought after award, the President Award. Why did I get there? It's because all my waking hours, I was working, I was learning. So talk to me about the healthcare industry. I will talk to you about the payers, the medical doctors, the technology, you name it, because this is how I am. Remember, this is what I used to cope with depression throughout my youth, is working, challenging myself. So at some point, there are 24 hours in a day. You have to sleep at least 7 of them. You have to ensure that you have fun. You have to ensure that you eat healthy. I was not doing any of that. All I was doing was work, and work some more.
Right. And I think another piece that you just mentioned really is important too, is that they recognize you, right? You get this wonderful award, and it's a wonderful, like, again, it's validating and it feels good, right? And you're surrounded by other brilliant people. I too found myself in my work, loving the intellectual discussions and feeling like I was helping advance and make change for somebody else, right? In a very positive way. It's very intoxicating is the way I think about it. And so it is. It feeds the machine of, I'm going to work some more. I'm going to work some more. I got more problems to solve, right?
Yeah.
So then you get to a point where your body just goes, I can't do it anymore. So then what did your engineering mind start to do?
So that engineering mind went to a standstill. And when I say I collapsed, I was not good for anybody. I was not good for myself. I was not good for my husband, let alone work. I couldn't think. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't sleep. I was just miserable. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, acid reflux, and the weight gain. I went to my size 6'8" to size 16-18. Of course, you're not exercising. You're eating junk. You're not sleeping. You stress out. So basically, the perfect storm.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do anything. So I was basically dragging myself. I was curled up in that bed. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do anything. I became suicidal. I reached a point where I was one hair about to basically do that. And I was fortunate that there is that voice, I call it God, I call it the Holy Spirit, who says, call Marilyn. Call Marilyn. And I reach out to that phone and I called her. And she goes, is John home? John is my husband. I'm like, no. She's like, please don't hang up. And she told me later her fingers was on 911 because she's like, if I don't hear from her, I have to dial 911. So her husband was already researching all of those things so that they could call the Mulkitio 911 and all. So she stayed with me on the phone for an hour until my husband came back. Having somebody in your life when you're going through all of this is extremely important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Having your Marilyn.
So I could say I went as low could be.
And so how long were you in this place of feeling this poor and this bad?
We will say a good 3 to 5 months.
And that's a long time. I'm sure
This
in the middle it
is a
feels
long time. Yeah, this is a long time. And trying to process it, trying to do something, and you are grinding, and you're tired, and you curl yourself up, and to my worst enemy, I don't want that to happen to them.
No. And so, Marilyn,
that thing is interesting. You see it, and all I wanted to eat was rice and ice cream, and some fruits, but more rice. Just give me the rice, because white rice is my chocolate, and the white rice is your chocolate, and it does this to me. Yes.
And for anybody who's listening and not watching the video portion of this, Celine just gave this face of massively blowing up and getting bigger. So going back to what you said, you went from your size 6'8" to 16 and 18 on rice, which that's very unusual too, because most people don't choose rice as the vice, right? So then what was did you have a light bulb moment, or what was it that that stopped that cycle for you?
Love. Yes. Love. The love of my husband. The love of my children. I have two beautiful girls. The love of my family. The love of my fantastic friends. I'm like, I am loved. And that voice in there that says, oh, you are nobody, you are nothing, it's a lie. I am loved. I am beloved. And that little tiny light, I clung onto it because that kept me going. That kept me going. And I went for my physical. And I think anger was very, very good too. And I think anger is what created that helped me. So I went for my physical for the high blood pressure. And he said, oh, Mrs. Brozovich, we're going to put you on medication. I look at him and I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely, positively not. Didn't you guys put my mother on high blood pressure medication for 54 years? We have to find another answer. Kind of look at me. And then I think something happened there. And I'm like, oh, if I don't do something, they are going to operate on me because we've started to do some of all the work for the acid reflux. And he's like, Miss Anelone, Mrs. Anelone, you are not reasonable. Your mother, and I'm like, you know what? You guys put her on medication for 54 years. We have to find another answer. What answer? I didn't know. And then he threatened me. He's like, okay, you know that if you don't change the next, I want to see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks is all he gave you. 2 weeks.
If in 2 weeks you come back and I'm not seeing a little bit of movement, I'll stop being your doctor.
Oh.
I love you know me. I love this type of challenge. So I came home. I start doing. I'm like, okay, what kind of a diet am I going to go to? Am I going to go this? And really, by accident, I run into lifestyle medicine. Oh, and we'll talk about that. The more I read about it, the more it made sense. I'm like, okay, let's try it.
Yep.
So I went cold turkey. Overnight, I stopped eating everything processed. No more ice cream, especially no more Greek yogurt, 100% Greek yogurt. That maple syrup. No more processed food, no more meat, no more oil. I jump all in, and yes, within a couple of weeks, the weight, and I start exercising. I resume the trampoline. I start doing the mental work, going to mass, praying, and I start basically everything. And the result was showing. So when I went to see him, I look happier. I look better. It's like, what are you doing? And I showed him, and I'm like, oh, Dr. Hoffman, I'm doing Hoffman medicine. Here is what there is. So let me define to you what is lifestyle medicine, the best kept secret in medicine. Lifestyle medicine says when it comes to your health, especially chronic diseases, what you put in your mouth in terms of food, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, hydration, and the best one is water. What you put in your mind and soul in terms of relaxation, prayers, stress management, what you do with your body in terms of exercising, sleeping, access to the sun, what you do with your life purpose. Do you know what your life purpose is? Are you working on your mission? What you do with your connectedness to yourself, connectedness to your family, connectedness to the community, and that self-compassion, and the environment you live in. Do you live in a polluted environment with noise or a chemical? When you manage all of those aspects of your lifestyle, you prevent and or reverse chronic diseases. And I was reading all the medical papers, the journal and everything, and yes, they were right. This is what I did. I applied every single thing slowly, surely, and the result is here.
Okay, so what happened in the 2 weeks? Because your physician, and let's just say I've got a lot of love for traditional medicine, but also spent time in traditional healthcare and research as well. And when I was challenged with having some conflicting opinions with some of the physicians I worked with, one of the cardiologists pulled me aside and he said, you have to remember, in all the years of school and training, we had about 1 hour on exercise and maybe an hour on nutrition. We don't have that back, Now this was a while ago, so hopefully things have gotten better. But I want to hear about your 2-week visit and then what's happened with your physician and your provider since then.
Yeah. So what happened during the 2 weeks? I told you, no more animal
you went cold turkey. I love
no
it.
more processed food. I'll eat plenty of green vegetables, drink water, exercise, go for a walk, talk, journal a little bit. And I don't do written journal. I do verbal journaling. And I even took a recorder, and I'll say out how it is that I was feeling.
Yep.
Voila. And keeping myself engaged. And here is what happened. I was driving with my husband on the speedway, and it was as if I had scales on my eyes that somebody has removed. I don't know. Do you wear glasses, Wendy?
I did as a kid, and I had the LASIK.
So when you go to the eye doctor and they change the lenses,
yes,
and it's foggy, and then it's clear, it's exactly. It was as if everything was foggy and now it was clear. I asked my husband, and I'm like, wow, this is so bright. This is like, yes, this is exactly. So I was not even looking for results on my mood and the depression. I was looking for a result more on the high blood pressure, the cholesterol. But the first place where I saw a result was on my mood and on depression.
Yeah.
When I went for that visit, I was like, giggly and this and that. And he kind of looked at me and I'm like, yeah, Dr. Alfred, it works. I'm feeling better and on everything. And he took the blood pressure and the blood pressure was going down. We did a cholesterol test. I was at 220 and it was going down. Yeah. It's like, okay. And I'm like, Dr. Alfred, look, I have read all of those things and it makes sense. Trust me. And I gave him some of the book, How Not to Die from Dr. Greger, the China study, because remember, I will swallow those books as if they were food because I will read all of them.
The data scientist dug in.
And it made so much sense. Everything in that makes so much sense. It's like, wow, interesting. Okay.
So then you did not have to get on high blood pressure medicine or something for cholesterol at that time. So have you continued working with the same physician and bringing this information back? So tell me a little bit more about that. And then I want to talk a little bit more about then how you've taken this and turned it into your passion to help others.
One thing that was interesting, my follow-up visit became like more me educating him than him. Like, okay, so tell me more about that thing. And I'm like, Dr. Harford, here it is. And I continued. I read more. I continued. He retired now. He is no longer there. But I continued. I read more, got educated, and found one of the book that will really change things for me. It is called The Pleasure Trap.
The Pleasure Trap.
Oh, yes. In The Pleasure Trap, Dr. Lyle says, if you are going to make a change in your lifestyle, make sure that there is pleasure in it. I'm like, wow. And don't create too much effort and don't make it painful.
Yeah.
So everything I was now focusing on the food and ensuring that the food was tasty, was delicious, that things that I was doing, I became really, really self-aware to say, And this was beautiful actually, because the 6 months that followed, I think I was born again. And every single day I was feeling energized, good, I'm like, I have to tell the entire universe.
So, okay, so how long ago was this that you had this epiphany and said, I've got to tell everybody? How long ago was this?
5 years ago. Yeah, five and a half years ago. Yes. Because I created,
Okay.
after that, I'm like, okay, you know what? People have to know about that. How do I do that? And I start figuring out how do I do that. And I was fortunate. I took a certification called the Complete Health Improvement Program. I also took the CDC Diabetes Prevention Program. And
Yep.
of course, I took the Cornell Whole Food Plant-Based Nutrition Certification. And I was fortunate. One of the things that happened to me was Dr. Kevin Clay at Providence Regional Medical Center said, you know what? You seem thrilled to do what you're doing. Why don't you come help me teach? So for the last 3 years, I co-teach with him the Complete Health Improvement Program for the employees of the hospital.
Nice.
So that gave me, yeah.
So you wound up working again in healthcare in a very different side of it. But you're also then living it and you're more passionate, obviously. I mean, you were passionate, it sounds like, when you're reflecting back on your time, in healthcare IT, you loved solving the problems and challenges, but now you're on a whole different place solving challenges. So how then are you helping others with all this knowledge that you've consumed, right? And with healthcare and lifestyle medicine, I too am a convert. I grew up as a physiologist, and so I've always been very aware of the importance of movement, mood, food, everything, and how it all interacts. But I've seen it more now important in my day-to-day, how I feel every day, right? In your 20s and 30s, you can get by with a lot of crap, I think, You can put your head down and work like heck, and you can go on 4 hours sleep, but not in my 50s. And I love the fact that you also brought in the pleasure trap, because most people are going to listen to some of the things you're talking about right now and go, ugh, she wants me to get on a diet. She wants me to get up and go, run 10 miles, and she wants me to do this, this, and this. So I love how you're incorporating the pleasure piece of this. And obviously it shows how you feel. So how then did you get from that place and co-teaching to where you are now and helping others?
Very great question. Very great question. You use one word, diet. This is one that I have banned from my language. Diet, and I'm looking straight at the camera, diet does not work. Period. And let me repeat it. Diet does not work. Les régimes alimentaires ne marchent pas. Okay? Why? Because it's something you do for a short term. You don't embark in it looking for the long term. Nutrition works. Lifestyle works. You look at your lifestyle and you make the changes. And as you're going to make the changes, you have to look at the long term. And you do not want to go and do things because it works for somebody. No, look at your lifestyle. It requires a lot of self-awareness. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to start with exercise. I have a membership at the gym, at the YMCA, because I'm part of the board of the YMCA. But I don't like going to the gym. I like exercising at home. Here, I have my trampoline. Boom.
I love it. And so, again, those who are unfortunately only listening to our discussion today do not get the delightful image of you standing up from your desk and going and jumping on the trampoline in your office. I love it. So, yeah. Trampolining. You're my trampoline gal.
So coming back, so I sat down and I watched I watched how Dr. Clay and the CHIP program was doing a beautiful program that is used for people who are recovering from from strokes and stuff like that, and for people who want to reverse diabetes. It works well. And I listened to the different coaches out there, and something was missing. I mean, something is missing. Bingo! Here's what is missing from my perspective as an engineer. At the end of the day, it is about change. And it is not about group change. It's about the person, the individual change. So we have to come up with something that takes into account the whole person, but that is also personalized. And I designed my program taking into account that. If it's about change, change is a science. It has different steps. Yep. You have to be aware. You have to have that desire. You have to have the knowledge. You have to have the ability, and you have to reinforce it. Usually, the bulk of the program, they stop at knowledge. What is knowledge? If I give you a book on how to swim, you can read that book in French, English, German, I don't care. You still won't know how to swim. The programs, they stop at knowledge. I'm like, aha, we have to get to ability. What does it mean? We have to help people develop the capabilities. So in my program, I start with desire. And I call it the burning yes. Why do you want to change? That, let's talk about your strategy. Why do you want to change?
Why are you here, right?
Yeah. So when we go very deep, and you have different techniques that you can use to do that motivational interview, and when they get that yes, Stephen Covey called it the burning yes. When you get that burning yes, they can do anything. When we've gotten that yes, the next thing is, let's get now to the capabilities building. You have 1.3 trillion free vegan recipes out there. Yes. You don't believe me? Type vegan recipes. Within a few seconds, 1.3 trillion. So it is not about having access to the recipes. And you have beautiful chefs that are out there, free things. Yeah. But it is understanding. When it comes to that nutrition, what are we talking about? We have 80,000 edible plants. And then learning some of the basics. You have gazillions of alternatives out there. So when they understand, they have that foundations about when you, at the end of the day, nutrition is not very complicated. You're going to eat some sweet, you're going to eat some dessert, you're going to eat some salad, you're going to have to eat some of the beans, and you have some of the basic things. Once you have that basic, and you know how to make the basic things, the rest now is yours. Have fun, explore, do anything you want to do. And because of that French part of my education, on parle de plaisir. I tell them, plaisir is pleasure. Whatever you're going to put in your mouth, if it's not tasty, don't do it. And to be tasty, it doesn't have to be loaded with sugar or loaded with salt. You have to find ways to make it delicious.
Right.
And make sure you fold things into your lifestyle. And most importantly, wait that it took 40 years to pile up. You don't lose it in 4 days, in 4 weeks, in 4 months. Be patient with yourself. Because you have to basically work on the entire machine, everything slowly, and one take the other, one build on the other, and that love for yourself and accepting that love. Yeah, anyway.
But it's interesting as you talk the pleasure piece of it, right? Because again, some people will instigate change and they put themselves through either something really rigorous or something very, it's so much, maybe deprivation isn't the right term, but something that is more taking away from their pleasure. And so they can do it for a little while, right? But I imagine that because you were dealing with all these pieces of this very complex puzzle, right? And you're working with your clients on their finding what they're enjoying, that it's a self-reinforcing cycle, that they, feel better right away. And, and that makes it a lot easier.
Yes.
And it becomes
And I remember one of my clients, his wife dragged him there. And the first class, he looked at me, he's like, I eat my meat. You're not going to stop me eating my meat. I look at him and I'm like, what's your question again? Did I tell you not to eat your meat? Okay, what you do? By the end of class, he's like, I don't even miss it. And I'm like, okay, because I told him the idea is not to get started on what it is that you cannot do. I'm not interested in tell you don't do that, don't do that. No, I am interested in making you know that you have so many alternatives out there and get you curious and empower you to do things. When you are standing in that kitchen and you are making that milk, and I have taught you how to add a little bit of chocolate, cocoa powder in it, and one sweetener, and you try and it's delicious, you're like, she has something. My first class, for example, when we're talking about the food, is sweet. Mm-hmm. First class, I'm like, okay, we're going to do some sweet. We have to replace that sweet.
Yeah.
So we replace it, and you make your own cinnamon swirl. You make your own chocolate spread. You make your own raspberry jam. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is good. I'm like, this is what we're talking about here. Do I have your attention?
So this is not at all the path that you thought you would be on.
No. I have never thought that I will be helping people sometime cook, because, well, the cooking is just a little tiny part of it.
Just a piece of it.
But now that I have figured out that, it is so simple, it doesn't have to be complicated.
It doesn't have to be hard.
Because nobody has to become a chef to eat healthy. No, I don't believe that. Nobody has to be rich to eat healthy.
Yeah.
It's there. You could do it. And it could be fast.
But but the best part is, again, that you look and feel better and better all the time. And, I also love hearing the stories and the personal attestations of what's changed in their life. And one of the first women that I met through podcasting, her name is Miss Gabby, and her eyesight was failing, and her eye doctor, huge kudos to him, said, eat more plants, and gave her some recommendations. She still doesn't need glasses. And she's like, I can see better than I ever had in my entire life. Right. And so there are all these stories I hear from women in our 40s and 50s who have just really made some changes, and how significant it really is to the day to day. And again, if this is how it makes you feel now, my body's got to go the distance. I want to be here playing for a long time, Celine. So.
And actually, I just read an article, and I have to send it to you, that we become more effective starting in our 50s. I don't know if there was a research that is in there. No, relax and enjoy that life. I'm like, I have less in front of me than behind me. I'm going to take advantage of every single day of it. And oh, by the way, when it comes to forgiveness, I am divorcing you.
So I want to make sure people know, divorcing only the toxic relationship.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, look at that. And actually, I'm running a program, and I'm partnering with an HR person. We are developing what we call an audit network, a network map, where we're asking our people to audit their relationship. Mm-hmm. Look at the people that you are interacting with, and ask yourself, was I fulfilled with that relationship? For example, you analyze that and you're like, okay, this is not in sync with my value set. I was in contradiction with myself there. That relationship, I have to do something about it. Either I tell the person that, nope, I don't want to be part of that. Or when I see the person and the jokes start, you're like, I have work to do. Let me go. Yep. And you stay in tune with yourself. And this is what we are lacking. sometimes to be nice to people,
Yep.
we lose the connection with ourselves. And let's all remember, it starts with me, that
Yep.
self-compassion. And to do that, you have to be true to yourself and not be afraid.
Yep. Agree. And like you said, keep auditing what's working for you, what's making you feel better, and what's making you feel worse. Okay, so I want to pivot because I want to ask a little bit more about Bekenji Health. Did I say it correct? Because I loved and I asked you, what does Bekenji mean?
Bekenji. So Bekenji means change is possible. You can change. Imagine the following. You go, Bekenji, change is possible.
So this is what you've then named your
Yes.
your whole new career path, and it's not even new anymore, but your career path. So BekenjiHealth.com.
Change is possible. Yes,
Change
you
is
can
possible.
change.
So anybody listening and watching can find more information about how you're helping others, how you're taking this to companies and executives and helping them keep their people happy, healthy, grounded. So that's where they come find you, BekenjiHealth.com.
Yes, DestinationU.com. Or just type Celine Brozovich. I must be the only one on the face of the universe.
Now that's not surprising at all. And I will have, your name and the website and resources in the show notes. And also I'll be adding them on the video. So people, if you're listening, you can check it out later and write these down and find Celine and find her program. And if you're concerned about wanting to make a change in your world and you just don't know how to, make sure you check out Celine's work, because again, you're going to find the fun, the pleasure, all the good things that await you with some of the changes that you can undertake.
And you have to be ready to laugh, because this engineer is not serious. She loves to laugh.
Love it. Okay, so then what's making you laugh when I know one of the questions I want to end with is, what is something that is either on your live it now list that you've got to tell everybody has to put this on their bucket list, or something that you've loved, a place you visited, or experience you've tried? What is something you're going to tell everybody has to do what, Celine?
I have two things.
Two things. Okay, good.
In
good.
Israel. I'll eat meat again, but only one meat. When you go to Israel, in Jerusalem, by the hillside there, you see some lamb going there and grazing. The meat for that lamb must be delicious. I want to eat that.
Okay, so this is cool.
Oh la la, I was in Israel 6 years or whatever it is, about years ago. I will see those goat or lamb. I don't know what it is, but they look like goat or lamb. They were grazing by the hillside. The meat for that one there, barbecued. I want to have a piece of that.
Okay.
And when you go to Israel, go try the vegan restaurant. I ate my best vegan meals in Israel. It was delicious. It was delicious. It was in Tel Aviv. We went to that restaurant where they catered. Oh, I have to find the name of that restaurant. This is the best food I've ever eaten was in Israel. And I have a French background, so I have traveled a lot to France. I even lived in France. But the best food, tastiest food I've had were vegan food in Tel Aviv, in Israel. Yes, this I'll do it again. I'll call my former boss and ask for the name of that restaurant.
Well, this is a wonderful recommendation, because nobody's brought up a Tel Aviv, Israel connection, or that that's the best vegetarian meals that you've had. And again, you've got a French background, so who would have expected that today? I love it.
Oh, I'm still thinking about that. I don't know what that chef did, but it was so good.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, Celine, thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing your story. We connected on Clubhouse, and I knew that you were into functional medicine and lifestyle medicine, but I love more getting to know about your story and the engineering scientist mind, the data scientist, and how you were unleashed. You were unchained from the health IT constraints, and you were let go and able now to take on lifestyle medicine who desperately needs you. So thank you for sharing your personal story, and thank you for helping others understand all the really great things that are out there. And Bekenji.
Thank you, Bekonjio.
Bekenji.
You have to do it the following. You have to put your hands on your hip and turn a little bit, and you have to add the O at the end. Bekonjio.
Okay, let me give it a shot.
Okay.
Bekonjio.
Yes, you got it.
Then how do you say thank you and have a blessed day then to wrap up?
So because I'm a woman, what, in French, in my native tongue, which language? Merci, in French.
Merci.
And mo.
And momo.
Mo means thank you, ma'am.
Wonderful.
Thank you so very much. So I'm going to say to you, merci, and momo, Wendy.
Merci and momo, Celine. And thanks everybody.
You.
And thanks everybody for joining.